The torrential downpours have pummeled Australia's east coast, with Sydney receiving heavy rains triggering flash floods. Authorities have ordered thousands to evacuate. And Greg Navarro is joining us from Sydney live. Greg, hello there. So how is Sydney coping?
Well, Lee Dunning, I can tell you that we've got a really brief break in the rain. You wouldn't believe the amount of rain we've had by the skies at the moment, but to give you an indication, I'm actually standing on a road that would normally continue behind me, but you might be able to see some of those road signs just popping up just up above. I'm in the Richmond area of Sydney. It's about 45 minutes to the west of the center of the Sydney. Behind me, the Hawkesbury River is one of the rivers that continues to rise even though the rains have subsided from yesterday. In 6 hours, some areas got 200 millimeters or more of rain, some 300 and even higher. A tremendous amount of rain fell, what some people are calling a rain bomb. It's part of this low pressure system that continues to hammer Sydney and particularly northern New South Wales. We're in the midst of a La Nina weather event here, and what that means is it produces typically cooler and, more importantly, typically wetter conditions. That is exactly what we've seen throughout the entire summer, and now we're into autumn here. In fact, the start of autumn, we've already seen more rain than what Sydney would normally get during the entire year. You alluded to evacuations. Thousands of people have been evacuated. In fact, not far from where we are at the moment, there was a death reported overnight. A man was found in his car in the floodwaters. And there are other people on watch and act orders at the moment. The number of people that have been forced from their homes because of all this. You have to remember that it's not just what's happened over the last 24 hours or so. This has been constant. About 4 weeks ago, this particular area where I am was also subject to huge flooding, where the Hawkesbury River behind me overflowed its banks. It happened a year before that, almost to the day. So some areas have been hit with what they're calling a once in 500-year storm twice within the span of 30 days. Now, climate scientists will tell you this is the result of a warming planet, because the warmer the planet is, the more moisture it holds, and it leads to more weather extremes. Australia, by the way, is probably the most developed country that is prone to these weather extremes. They're becoming more frequent and they're becoming more extreme. And climate scientists say one of the biggest problems with all this is that we're not addressing two aspects of this. One is addressing carbon emissions. Australia, as you know, has been widely criticized for not doing enough to meet those net zero targets, the 2030, 2050 targets. But on top of that, what we're seeing here is that 93% of disaster budgets are being spent on the cleanup, on after the fact, on helping people to rebuild their homes. Just 7% is spent on ways to mitigate these things, because climate scientists tell us that storms and flooding like this is going to happen more frequently. That's the whole point of a warming planet. But they say we also, in addition to addressing carbon emissions, as I mentioned, we need to start planning better. We're forecast to see rain right throughout the rest of this month. And again, totals today are not anywhere near as bad as they were yesterday, but you have to remember this: the ground is so saturated that water behind me really has nowhere to go. That's why at the moment these rivers continue to rise, even though the skies at the moment are giving us, thankfully, a bit of a break.
I hope everything will get better soon. And Greg, you take care and keep safe there in Sydney. Greg Navarro reporting from Sydney in Australia.